We appreciate the support that you give us, and I guess as a disclaimer from my side, I apologize if we're going to be speaking just the two of us today more than addressing you guys, but we're fully aware that you guys are in the room, and we do love and appreciate you very much. Thanks to you guys, over 1 million subscribers. Did I congratulate you for that?
Yes.
Hey? Congrats to yourself, Alzi, the entire team. Thank you so much. You're voting for Kamala Harris, you said. You said she's the best candidate. You've always wanted a female president. Why are you smiling? And she's the greatest thing since sliced bread and better than Barack. I think that's what you said off camera.
No. You're putting words in my mouth, brother. So I literally love the way that the Americans do politics and the way that they go and rally up votes. We should learn a lot more from them and apply it to the next election.
It's rubbish. It's entertainment and Hollywood and a lot of acting. You like the showmanship of it?
Yes, I do.
Not the substance, because there's like no substance. There's just a lot of, Bobby's got ugly hair and Bobby eats cats and dogs and he doesn't really like...
I disagree. I think there's a lot of substance.
Okay.
But you have to scratch.
Okay.
So I saw a post you posted on your story that said Joe Rogan interviewed DJ, Donald Jr. Trump, DJ, I call him DJ Trump, and Kamala Harris went onto the #1 up-and-coming black podcast.
Yeah.
I didn't watch the episode yet.
It's fine.
Did you watch it?
I did.
Okay.
So it's not the greatest, unfortunately. Club Shay Shay, hosted by Shannon Sharp, yeah.
Okay. And it was interesting that you said that because you like opposing opinion, even though sometimes you test your theory that I know you believe in something, but you argue against what you believe in. I'm not putting words in your mouth because you said off camera as well, like you like DJ Trump is your guy. He's your like.
I would never say that. Donald Trump is a racist, and we don't need people like him in the world.
But in the spirit of opposing opinion, did you watch the Joe Rogan show where Joe Rogan interviewed him?
I did.
What did you think?
So just to let the people know, because they won't know, we're recording this a couple of days before the election date in America.
1st of November.
You don't have to let them know that. They're going to
1st of
start
November.
tracking how we move. So if ever this episode drops after the election results come out, we apologize in advance, but we still want to share our thoughts nonetheless. Huge fan of Donald Trump for many reasons. I'm one of those guys because I've gone on record to say the same about Jacob Zuma.
Yeah.
But I'm a fan of all leaders, all of them. Any useless, pathetic leader you can think of, I will study because I want to know what is it that got this guy wherever. Did he buy elections? Does he have the right type of funders? Did he scare people? Did he happen to be the right race at the right time with the right people? Like, what is it so that we can learn how leadership works? Donald Trump, similar to Zuma for me, although a politician now, very successful business person, great personality, great for views. The Apprentice was a big show. You're fired, even to this day. And then the transition into politics where he didn't really change much as a personality, which many people liked.
Yeah.
Because you see the change.
Yeah.
Penwell's now wearing a suit. He's now in this, it's Mr. Mlotshwa to you. And you're like, oh, isn't this the guy?
Yes.
So Trump has kind of kept a consistent personality and brand, which people then trust. Similar to Zuma. You may or may not like him. He comes on a platform, he laughs, he giggles, he dances, he sings, he pokes. You're like, okay, this guy's kind of been the same. And what happens with that is that you win the hearts of, I guess you'd call it ordinary people. You're rough, you're crass, you say the exact things that people are thinking. And Trump has done that. Not only did he do that, but he actually ended up winning and becoming president of America, which was huge.
Yeah.
Similar to Arnold Schwarzenegger back in the day becoming the governor of California. That was huge for us as well. Now, all the accusations that had been made of Trump being a clown, etc., even by our own homeboy Trevor Noah when he was still on The Daily Show, none of that stuff was true. He again remained on brand, still the same guy. He spoke about a wall. Mexicans are going to pay for it. He literally started planning and they started building a wall. A lot of the sort of racist accusations, almost all of them were unfounded. No one could prove this guy's a racist. If anything, what came out is how many black entrepreneurs Trump had funded over the years back in the day. What also came out was how many black people supported Trump to this day. And one of the people, I don't know if he supported Trump per se, outside of Candace Owens, would be Killer Mike, a hip-hop star, but also an activist. And Killer Mike would speak about this whole idea. I think Kanye West later, also supporting Trump, would say the same thing. Why is it that we are forced as black people to vote Democrat? Isn't that racist? Why are you voting DA? You're black. And you're like, that sounds racist. So I cannot exercise my freedom because I'm black, which means I have no choice but to support Kamala Harris. But you're a woman. Why would you? And you're like, no, that's actually racist and sexist. And what Killer Mike was speaking about was how America was better for black people at a certain time under Republican rule, which some people now, there's these mutterings of either apartheid, which is not good, but the idea of when we're not speaking wokeness, progressive policies, and strict, we pray at school, kids get a hiding, you have to get married before you have sex. You start realizing, but things were more organized and there was less of the so-called destruction, which some people could call conservative / right-wing, which is what Candace Owens is into. So I've always been a big fan of Trump for that. He did an amazing job, I'd like to think. Other people could argue otherwise. He navigated through COVID. And even under all the international pressure, he was still honest about what he thought, whether it's real, not real, who's to blame.
China. His famous line, China. Yes.
He went and he attempted to sucker punch China at a time when everyone's trying to be diplomatic. He's like, these guys are eating us for breakfast. All our jobs have been exported there. We want to make America great. We want the jobs back. And Kamala Harris now has not been president of America yet, but she has been vice president. It's not like she hasn't had a big leadership position. And a lot of the promises she's been making, one of the questions that keeps coming up is, but why have you not been doing that now under Biden? Which was one of my criticisms, by the way, of Jacob Zuma when he was under Mbeki. But this guy was deputy president for 2 terms. It's not like he was in the wilderness. Similar argument could have been made with Cyril being the deputy of Jacob Zuma, where Cyril is the problem. It's like, but Zuma made him deputy president. And he never said anything at the time, so it's convenient at a point. But I like Trump. I won't lie, I don't know much about Kamala Harris. The interviews that I've listened to, unfortunately, I'm not convinced because she tries too hard to say the right things. She tries too hard to be black. You find black politicians in South Africa, when they're addressing black people, they stop speaking like this. The thing, when you support this country and what we want, our ends, and you're like, who's that? Is that Penn? Why is he talking like Leon Schuster? So you realize, no, man, I don't like that, personally. And Kamala Harris does that. She's been doing the whole thing of courting black celebrities. Barack Obama, of course, they come from the same Democrat background, is supporting her, getting Beyonce Knowles, and all these. And again, it becomes this thing of, but you're black, therefore you must. And she's not even like full black. She's got Indian heritage, and which is just a mess.
She's not real. She's a little bit diluted.
Keeps it real.
So, here's why I like Trump. And I'm gonna use an example that happened 30 minutes ago.
Sure.
Every time I have to make a new rule in the company or have to speak about a rule that's been in our company for the last 10 years and publicly speak about it, it means I'm failing as a leader of this company. So we have a test drive form that a consumer has to fill out, and based off of that we can pick up traceability. You are who you say you are. We can test drive the car. No problem. What is the reason for that? Well, a couple of years ago, we had a gentleman point one of our back then salespeople with a gun.
Jeez.
And said, climb out of the effing car with a gun. All right. So immediately.
While test driving.
Yeah, he stopped. He said, climb out of the effing car. Because he hijacked him. It was an RS3, is gone. Poof, gone with the car. Eventually, we got the car back the same day, and it worked out fine. Not for him, but for us, it worked
Sure.
out okay. But that day we made a rule. So we go and we test your driver's license against who you actually are, because people have high quality printers these days. You can pay 500 Rand and get a temporary license. There's lots of, people are creative. So the test drive form just confirms who you are, match your cell phone number to the system because you've been recorded, and then based off of that, if you point us with a gun, we'll know who the person is
Sure.
that pointed us with a gun. So every time I have to sell the company on the idea of using this because someone didn't use it, I'm failing.
Yeah.
All right. So this is micro. Let's go macro. Every time a president candidate has to go up and say, if you elect me, I will remove men from women's sports, that government has failed for me. That's my, everyone's allowed an opinion. If I have to rally this way to say, if you guys elect me to be your president, I'll put America first, or South Africa, or whatever country I'm intending to become the president of. Put you guys first, and men will no longer be allowed to participate in women's sport, weightlifting. I think one of the records stood for nearly 80 years. And here comes this dude, probably from a bar.
You can't say what you're saying, but
And
please carry on.
I can.
I have to
It's
apologize and
it's my-
defend. Please continue. Sorry.
So, when you look down, if you've got male genitals and you're allowed to compete in a weightlifting event against females, you have an unfair advantage. Testosterone, evolution, call it what you want. And every time a president has to come up in front of the country and say, if you guys elect me, I will eliminate this, the government has failed, in my opinion.
Sure.
It shouldn't be happening. Now, well, I also like him. He's not shy. He's unapologetic to say
Hey.
America first. So you guys, China. That's like my favorite line. China. You're building a massive plant just outside our border in Mexico, which will be the biggest car manufacturing plant in the world. And your intention is to manufacture cars there, bring them into the States, and kill our market, destroy our market.
Yeah.
And every time a president-elect or candidate has to come up and say, vote for me because if I get elected, I will protect our economy by taxing these people 100, 200, 300, 400%, to the point where I will tax them until they can't afford to bring the cars and sell them here and destroy our economy. Let's make America great again, or put America first. Every time you have to rally up votes like that, it means your government has failed. That's my opinion. If you're not protecting the inside of your country and putting your country first, like Putin, love him, hate him, he's Russia first.
Yeah. Same with Xi Jinping in China.
China first. Nothing wrong with that.
Cyril Ramaphosa as well.
Well, that's a debatable question.
Is it debatable?
Yeah, very debatable. Because
What are you debating? It's kind of clear. He puts. Are you sipping on your tea there?
coffee.
Oh.
So it's debatable because, in my opinion, 4 years from now, the person that wins the elections then is a person that says, XYZ company, you are building this and this and this and this product in our country, killing this market. Well, have you adhered to everything according to the standards that we've set? No. All right, cool. We will tax you 100% until you do. And then watch things happen. The challenge is, and this is why I love Trump, I wish I could vote. I'd vote for him. It doesn't matter if you like the show or not and you unsubscribe. I'm going to give you my truth. Why I love Trump is he already made a lot of money in business.
Yeah.
Knows how to navigate that area. Most of the politicians in South Africa did not make money outside of politics.
Sure.
They made money as a result of politics.
Correct.
And as a result of becoming or being a politician, we got certain advantages and certain decisions that we could make to favor us, our family, whatever the case.
I need to emphasize what you're saying before you continue. So people will say Cyril Ramaphosa made money in business. The reality is he made money because of his politics of the time. So it's not just politicians earning a salary. It's not just tenderpreneurs. Even some of the wealthy, we'll call them black people in this country, a lot of them, it's because of BEE, which is political and their political connection. Whereas with Trump, he didn't start in politics.
Yeah.
He started in business purely. There are black South Africans who built a lot of wealth. I think Maponya is one of them, outside of politics. So it's important to create that distinction because they used to defend Cyril and be like, oh, but this guy's rich from business. His business was largely, if not almost all, politically connected.
So
Sorry.
An interview that, if you didn't watch, I suggest everyone watching this should go and take a look at, is when PBD interviewed Trump.
Patrick Bet David.
Yeah. Did you see that?
No.
So before he started, he said, you're a trifecta, which means a trifecta for him is someone that made it in business, like really made it in business. New York, building buildings.
Buildings with your name on them, boy.
Yeah,
Dollar billionaire.
Yeah. Dollar billionaire, shiny, loves gold. Had to navigate at that stage the mafia. So I'm like, my hobby is studying the Italian mafia structure.
Yeah.
I love Michael Francis. He's got a podcast. Michael Francis, phenomenal. Patrick but David interviewed him, and that was when I first got introduced to the two of them. It was phenomenal interview. I think it's got 30 million views.
Yeah.
But had to navigate that atmosphere at a very young age. Contracts, licenses, health and safety, had to navigate unions, thousands of things and hoops that he had to jump through, raise capital, become so much in debt, almost $1 billion in debt, almost lose everything, come up. So trifecta, made it in business, it's proven. I mean, there's casinos, there's buildings with his name on it.
Yeah.
Made it in media.
Yeah.
Really made it in media. The Apprentice, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 12 or 13 years in a row, #1 show.
Jeez.
Made it in media. And then the third one is made it in politics. He came
At the highest level, arguably in the
imaginable.
world.
Well, not arguably, it's the highest level, the leader of the free world at that stage. The most atom bombs means you lead. If you've got the biggest red button and it works, you lead.
Yeah.
Okay, so trifecta. Made it in business, made it in media, made it in politics. Now, having a sit down with a Putin or having a sit down with the guy from North Korea,
Kim Jong-un.
having a sit down with them being a trifecta versus not being a trifecta, and having to represent me. Who would I want representing me in that conversation? And the answer to that should guide you in the way that you vote. In South Africa, I think 4 years from today, the person that says, I put South Africa first, and this is why I put South Africa first, factually, boom, these are the facts, these are the companies that came in here, we are being exploited here, we are being taken advantage of here, this is how I navigate, so that there's a middle ground, slightly towards South Africa's advantage, has to be, unapologetically says that, that person will have my vote. On that car building story that I jumped on and off quickly, for me this was fascinating. If you build those cars, will increase the import duties and the taxes to the point where you can't sell them. That plant was probably 40-50% from completion.
Yeah.
He says this 3 weeks ago. The day after he says this, the building of the plant stops.
Jeez.
So if I get elected, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
China says, this guy will probably get elected, It's looking that way. Let's just pause it for at least 4 years.
I know he threatened France as well. He spoke about it on the Joe Rogan Experience.
Yes.
France also wanted to hit them with some import tariffs, and they're like, if you do that, we're going to hit you as well, and then we'll see who's going to win.
Yeah. So that for me is not a politician. That's a person.
Sure.
He's flawed. He's got his opinion. He's got his views, but he stands for something. And that's what he stands for. Now that creates division. You can't say that. You have to sit and meet in the middle and everybody has to be happy. And from the experience I have in business, the moment that you try and make everybody happy, everybody's unhappy. That's what I've seen.
Cyril does that. I've got 2 questions for you. I'd like you to not answer them until I've said my closing remarks on Trump. The first one is, do you believe in democracy? Number one. This is linked to Kamala Harris because I'd like us to give her a shot where we can. I know we're both biased, and it's important for people to know that we're biased. And then I'm going to challenge you to try and sell Kamala Harris to me, as difficult as it may be, but to try your best. Some of the other reasons why I like Trump, you've already mentioned. America is hated by a big chunk of the world for very valid reasons. Not just slavery back in the day, but how they bully the world. They've got over 600 military bases around the world. They control NATO. They kind of control the UN, but they don't abide to the same laws, etc., which becomes a huge issue. With that being said, they're very influential.
Yeah.
And South Africans are heavily influenced by America in many ways. Because some people are like, why are you discussing American politics? Yes, we were colonized by the British, but the reality is we're very Americanized in the soapies we watch, the movies we watch, the music we listen to, some of our favorite fast food brands, the clothing we wear, our celebrities, whether in sports, in
interest
media.
rate decisions.
Interest rates, their decisions affect us.
Immediately. The day after, it affects us.
It affects us.
We plan our interest rate announcements a day after the States.
Sure. They are our biggest trading partner.
Yeah.
Sometimes people could argue China, but essentially they're the biggest trading partner that we have. We are an American subsidiary in some or other way, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
So it is important for us to be aware of what's happening there. The ability for Trump to sit with Putin, with the whole understanding that America and Russia have this really difficult relationship, that was really big. The ability to sit with Kim in a world where North Korea is like isolated. How he was invited by one of the princes in Saudi Arabia, or the leader of Saudi Arabia, to sit there and be welcomed in a certain way. That speaks to a skill, because you can say you can judge him, you can say he puts America first, but these other leaders are willing to sit with him, where they're not willing to sit with other people. He's spoken out against the war, by the way.
Yeah.
He even pulled back troops. Now, this is important before you sell Kamala. Many people would argue that Barack Obama is one of the greatest leaders that in America, Kamala Harris, etc. The reality is Barack Obama sent more troops to the Middle East when George Bush and the guys were speaking about weapons of mass destruction. He is partly responsible for the killings of many innocent people, of which they never found weapons of mass destruction to this day.
Yeah.
They've never been held to account. They've never been called warmongers. They've never been hauled to the International Criminal Court. If anything, Barack Obama and others get worshipped. Trump didn't do that. He called the boys back.
Yeah.
He's spoken out about saying some of these conflicts he wouldn't support. And he echoes some of the utterings of Robert F. Kennedy in America currently today, that all that's happening now, which is great, I guess, for the American economy, is these conflicts between Russia and Ukraine, Israel and Palestine, are feeding the military-industrial complex in America. It's about making money. We can make money, but it doesn't have to be like that, where innocent people are being murdered and we're pretending like it's not what it is. Joe Biden has been responsible during his term for the bombing of places like Somalia. That's not covered in the media.
No.
So when you speak about someone who's bad, I mean, Trump has called Africa a shithole, but he speaks like that. That's not necessarily to say that's the right thing to say. He was being honest. We can then be like, was he right or wrong? And for people who are like, no, I prefer Kamala Harris because I think she's better for Africa or she's better for the developing nation. There's no proof of that. Under Harris, under Biden, under Barack Obama, etc. There's no proof We're not saying Trump is good for Africa. We're not. But we're just saying when that becomes your argument, but I prefer Harris because I think she'd probably be better for us. There's no proof of that at all. And yeah, I think I just wanted to say that about Trump. I never got to answer your question. And I don't know if the interest of time, if I'm going to answer it, because you were asking if I watched Trump on Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And then maybe touch on Kamala Harris on Club Shay Shay.
Yeah.
But I'd like you, if I don't answer it, it's fine. If I get a chance, I'll answer. Do you believe in democracy? Number one. And number two, can you please sell Kamala Harris to me and to everyone else?
I do believe in democracy.
The reason I ask about democracy is because you spoke about men and women's sports.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to ask if the popular rhetoric on the ground or the lobby groups that are the strongest are supporting LGBTQI+, are for allowing for trans women to be in certain sports, are for allowing maybe aggressive integration of races, maybe the heavy taxing of the rich in the spirit of lowering income inequality. If those are the notions on the ground, and you are now a leader and you're saying, but this is not right. And it's like, but it's not about you. This is what democracy is saying. That's the context of why I'm asking.
I'll answer
if
this
you
way.
believe in democracy. Thank you.
Take these 5 topics and rate what is number 1, most important.
Is this rhetorical or must I answer?
No, answer them.
Okay.
So product, sales leader, product, sales leader, culture, a effective way of recruiting, and an effective way of holding people accountable.
It's a very difficult question you're asking.
What is number 1? How does it flow down?
It's a very difficult question you're asking. Your question has to do with democracy because I'm going to give you 2 answers.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to give you the answer that I think most democratic nations would give you. Product.
Product first.
I believe most people, because of their level of education and their misunderstanding of business, etc., would argue product. I'm not saying that's what they'd say. They might not. But I believe in democratic nations.
Yeah.
They'd say product is number 1. My little bit of experience in business and studying the world, of all the options you gave me, I would go to the last one. If you have systems
to hold
that
people
hold
accountable.
people accountable, regardless of whatever decision we made, what product we have. But if we have systems that can hold people accountable to vision, strategy, etc.
May I challenge you?
No problem.
So if you have a great system of holding people accountable and you have a fantastic recruitment system as well, culture is great, product is fantastic, you have a shitty sales leader, how long before each one's standards drops?
I must answer that?
Yeah.
I believe if the systems hold people accountable, that sales leader won't last.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if he does, because the political system is designed to give people a chance over a very long time, rather than quarter to quarter to quarter to
Change your
quarter.
example because you're speaking about a company. So
No, I'm
who's the
speaking about a government.
Okay. Who's the
The sales leader is the president.
The president.
Yeah.
And your question is, okay, let's go back to your question.
Product?
What is the product? The economy?
The economy, that's
Okay.
the product.
Who's the sales leader? The
The
president?
president.
What's the culture?
What's the culture in the,
However the
culture?
country operates.
Yeah. What's the culture?
Recruitment, cabinet ministers,
Yes.
etc.
An effective, clear way of recruiting.
Sure.
Clear, crystal clear. So we recruit, and we know who we're recruiting for. So when I recruit a cadet, you need to be under the age of 23.
Yeah.
You need to speak at least 2 languages.
Discrimination.
Well,
I might be 25. Please carry
sorry.
on.
So clear. It needs to be clear.
I identify as a 23-year-old. Please continue.
Okay.
China.
You have to say it right. China. and at the end of the day, an effective system of holding people accountable.
So that effective system of holding people accountable, I know you're challenging me,
Yeah.
is why I still stand by that. Because you can have a powerful president, and I'm sorry to deviate. I believe Jacob Zuma, I like him, so people can attack me as well and unsubscribe. Hey,
Don't
Must-
unsubscribe.
don't-
We worked freaking hard for this bad boy at the back here.
Okay,
I don't
you
want
can-
YouTube
you
to
can-
phone us and say, send it back.
you can unsubscribe from my channels. I'm very biased towards Jacob Zuma, not in terms of politics. We can criticize that, just as the way he moved. Jacob Zuma exposed the issue, number one, the issues with the systems, but at the same time, he was also one of the big supporters of democracy, even as president. He said, take me to court, hold me accountable, do the reports. Where you find with the Cyril Ramaphosa, those things are kind of not happening. Where he's called to account, the NPA will say there's no case.
But did they hold him accountable?
Who?
Jacob.
We can debate that. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
All that happened with him is we got to see. Then you can decide for yourself. Whereas with other leaders, we don't get to see if the systems are effective or not.
There's the problem.
Sure.
They did not hold him accountable to the full extent of
No, we can debate that. I don't want to debate the politics. So I can argue that they did. But
the argument is...
I'm not saying our systems are strong, by the way.
And I'm not saying that he was a good, a bad, or a terrible president. What I'm saying is, if you have a clear way to hold people accountable, but the leader is weak,
yes,
well, those measures can be manipulated. Those measures can be swept under the carpet.
But then the systems are not strong. That's my argument. If the systems are strong, I believe the sales leader, the president will not last.
But what are systems? Systems are people.
So in South Africa, we're speaking the judiciary. We're speaking the legal systems. If you're found with foreign currency in your home, you're president, of course. The system should kick in and sweep you out. So you spoke about a sales leader that's bad. That person, if you have good systems, the people on the floor, they're great recruitment, they will go to HR and they will all lodge their complaints. And the person will be reviewed and fired.
Who does HR work for?
For the system.
HR works for the system.
For the system.
For the greater good of the people. The judiciary system.
No, it doesn't have to be judiciary. So that's why I was asking company versus a country.
Country.
So the people in HR should be working for the country, not for the sales leader.
Should be.
In good systems.
So here's my argument.
Sure.
Here's my argument. I put sales leader first.
You're assuming the sales leader's got a veto on everything else.
If the sales leader is genuine and truthful to the message and executes to the best of his or her ability, the product, no matter what the situation of the product is right now, eventually becomes good.
Okay.
Eventually it becomes good. Look at what country can we use? Look at China.
Okay.
Look at China. Where was China economically 10 years ago?
Please continue. I disagree with you. I don't want us to debate this thing because you're running away from my question. And I'm happy for us to disagree. Okay. I just feel that you have this assumption that the sales leader has got power over all the other factors. And I don't.
He does.
My assumption didn't work on that.
He does.
I understood you to separate these things and you're not.
No.
You're doing this thing of saying that the sales leader can override, whereas I thought strong systems can override everything else.
But a phenomenal sales leader, a phenomenal president, insists on strong systems.
But strong systems wipe out a weak leader. That's my counter argument.
A weak leader
so you get impeached, as an example.
But a weak leader, if you put systems above a leader, the leader will eventually, with enough time, find ways and leaks to erode the system and use the system to their advantage.
If the systems are weak.
If the systems are weak.
Yeah.
If the systems are strong, bulletproof strong, over time, with enough hammering, the sales leader will weaken the systems.
They won't have a chance. We can debate this the whole day. So I'm happy to challenge. I'm happy to disagree.
So to sell...
But you can use your
Kamala
argument.
Harris.
Yeah, you can use your argument on why you believe in democracy.
To sell her.
Kamala, yeah.
To sell
You haven't
her.
answered democracy.
I do believe, 100%. Democracy, I do believe.
I gave you the context. So democracy and the lobby groups say we want trans women to compete in female sports.
Okay.
Would you agree with that, or would you prefer your leader to override that?
I'm going to position myself as a great sales leader.
Right. President.
Yeah, great president. Sure. Okay, cool. So, historically, have we allowed men in women's sport?
No.
That's it.
We're also on
Systems.
the African continent. Almost all the countries in Africa criminalize homosexuality.
Okay?
Yeah.
Systems. Have we allowed men in women weightlifting? No. Okay. Next on the agenda.
But you can't just use history. In history, there was slavery and oppression.
Okay?
So
Let me
we
ask
allowed
you-
that, and that's what
let-
built a great
ve-
country. Should we keep
Great,
it going?
great argument.
Yeah.
Great argument. Naturally, are testosterone levels the same as women? No.
No.
No. So, does that mean it's an unfair advantage in boxing?
Yes.
Okay. So, last question. If a female boxer has dedicated her life, her entire life, in training and preparing for the Olympic Games, that's a lifetime of dedication.
Yeah.
Chose not to go out with friends, chose not to eat pizza, chose not to watch movies, chose not to engage in alcohol, drugs, whatever, recreational or not. That female faces a male for the gold medal.
Yeah.
Is that fair on her?
No.
Okay, then this shouldn't be allowed.
But testosterone levels are different. Women in sports have higher testosterone than average women. Similarly, you are happy for us to discriminate against men with low testosterone because you're comparing high testosterone men to women with the highest level of testosterone in female sports. And the argument is this man maybe has low testosterone. So he can compete with women if the argument is testosterone. Because in boxing, you've got weight divisions, which is discrimination. So if the guy can tick a box of I've got low testosterone, I should run with the woman, would you be happy?
Well, let's have a look at a couple of examples where that argument won. What happened?
I don't know the examples you talk about.
So, in the past Olympic Games,
Yeah.
we had a female that entered the ring with a male.
That was not proven, by the way. That's tough. But let's carry on with the story. I
Okay.
just want to put it on the record that those two cases are actually highly controversial.
Okay? And she got her ass beaten so bad
Yeah.
that she turned to the ref and to the coach and asked the coach to help her
Yeah.
because this dude was beating the shit out of her to the point where she was screaming, he's going to kill me.
Yeah.
Okay. There's my argument.
Yeah, but this is why Custer was also... So you've got a woman with high testosterone. You've got one of the Samoan Tuialagi brothers in rugby who have so high testosterone, who are so big. I'm 120 kgs. I'm running a chest and Colby. I shatter his collarbone. And it's like, but this guy is too big. It's unfair. He shouldn't be competing with...
Did Custer transition into...
So now we're speaking
into
private parts. You're speaking about testosterone.
Womanhood. No.
Your
Did she
argument is testosterone, right?
No, it's not.
What
It's
is private parts?
Woman and male. Yeah, private parts.
So,
yeah.
this is where it becomes a debate. And this is why I was asking about democracy. Because in democracy, everyone gets a chance to speak. And the lobby groups come in.
Sure.
And someone comes and says, if you're going to distinguish by gender in sports, which sports? Chess? Boxing? Very easy example. Because you're like, oh, this favors you. What about chess? What about sprints? What about some of the sports that are not contact?
So I don't know.
As an example.
I'm going to ask you. In chess, are men allowed to compete against women?
I don't know.
Professional chess.
But I was going to move from sports to things like academics.
Because if we open that,
like
we're going to speak IQ and then we're really going to get unsubscribed.
No, I understand. But all I'm saying, I'm not picking a side, by the way. You are sharing your opinion and you're fully allowed. Everyone should be.
Yeah.
My argument is just in a democracy, you allow people to have a voice and they have arguments. And some of these arguments and the lobby groups are the reason why homosexuality gets decriminalized in certain spaces, why homosexuals can get married, why trans women can compete in female sports. And you may not like it. You come in as Donald Trump, it's rubbish, that woman got beaten up, right? And then other people come and count and they're like, but men are discriminated in nursing. Men are discriminated against at preschools. No, I don't want a man looking after my little... And you're like, but that's discrimination and this is what we're trying to change. If the argument is weight, division, age as a cadet, is it testosterone, is it just private parts? And that becomes the debate. Are we only... You can't be a doctor, you're a woman. Why? Oh, come on, look. If you look down, which woman do you know historically that was a great doctor? So then they challenge it. And I'm saying what happens with democracy is you maybe use China and Putin as examples. They override these things, but they are not democratic anymore. And if you're going to support some of the utterances of a Trump and people like him, you need to say there are aspects of democracy I don't agree with, where I feel we must override them, even if the lobby groups or the majority of the people, South
Sure.
Africans, black people say, white people, we must tax white people separately.
Sure.
We must take all their company. We must grab the land.
Sure.
And you're
Sure.
like, if that's the notion on the ground, that's democracy. And if the ANC and Cyril say no, they are being anti-democratic.
But here's on the 5 points that we made.
Sure.
So in order for us to have a fantastic product, which is an economy, the sales leader needs to have a highly effective recruitment process and holding people accountable.
Yeah.
That then creates a culture.
But they don't appoint themselves. It's very important in your example.
Okay.
They were voted for democratically.
Okay, yes,
Sure.
that's right. But if that sales leader has a phenomenal recruitment process, and let's say the Minister of Sport needs to be recruited, before that recruitment is made, you have to, as a sales leader, as the president, make arguments towards me why I should pick you.
Sure.
And one of the arguments will be, well, I am not going to allow men in women's sports. Okay? Which sports? Because now if all those boxes are ticked, and by no means am I a great sales leader or great president candidate,
Sure.
but if all those boxes are ticked on having an effective way of recruiting people that surround you and that help you drive a great product, which is the economy, then the sales leader is still number one, not
But
the
it's,
recruitment.
but it's not democracy. We need to acknowledge that what you're speaking about is not democracy anymore.
Why is it not democracy?
Because I'm saying it's not the majority feel on the ground.
An
If
effective,
you're speaking about overriding for the
No,
betterment of the economy or the
not-
country, that's
not
okay.
not
But as
overriding.
long as you acknowledge that it's not democracy.
No, not overriding. If you have an effective recruitment process,
Yeah.
it can be a democratic process. It doesn't need to be
So
overridden.
let's
by
use
me.
land as an example, because I know the trans argument is very controversial and upsets a lot of
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
But let's use the land one in South Africa.
Okay.
Black people are asked to vote. Should we grab the land, expropriation without compensation, or should we carry on with the willing buyer, willing seller, pay them fair market value? And the majority vote expropriation without compensation. Then it goes to Parliament, and they debate, and they have the white paper and the green paper, etc. Then there are lobby groups, and then they speak about the dangers to commercial farms, to the mines, the impact on the economy. They reference Zimbabwe. And then Cyril sits with this thing, with his cabinet ministers, all of them. And they discuss and they debate, and they're like, look, for the betterment of the product, if we're assuming the product is the economy,
Yes.
this is not the right way to do things. I recruited you guys, you're great brains, you've traveled around the world, you've studied economies, etc. So we're not going to go ahead with this. I need you to acknowledge that if they do that, as much as they could for the economy, that is no longer democracy, because it's no longer the will of the people.
So just because I'm not very educated in that subject.
Sure.
So the people voted,
They voted for Cyril as the sales leader.
okay,
Sure.
and the cabinet ministers brought forward information for him to make a decision.
Yes.
Who made the decision?
Cyril.
Okay.
Finally, yeah.
He made the decision.
Yes.
So what was the vote between the cabinet ministers? Do it or don't do it?
The majority said don't do it.
The majority said don't do it.
Yes.
So then it was an effective mechanism in that specific, because we have to isolate the incident.
Sure.
An effective mechanism of recruiting ministers and advisors around you to make the right decision, advise you. So
Yeah.
could he have overridden their decision if he decided to?
He could have.
He could have,
Yeah.
but he didn't.
Sure.
So the major decision was no taking of land without proper compensation.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter where you stand on the topic. I'm not saying either or is right.
Sure.
I'm saying in the context of having an effective recruitment process and going with the cabinet minister's decision. In that instance, that specific instance,
Yeah.
theorizing what I'm selling you, then I'll say yes, it was an effective recruitment process by him taking the advice. Had he gone against their wish,
Yeah.
then it wasn't.
So it's not democracy. It's not a true democracy. You're happy for it to go through the processes, and if the last three people that have to make the decision do it in an open, transparent way, but it goes against the will of the masses.
Now
You
this
still
is
call that democracy.
now this is having information that other people don't. Did everyone have the same information to start off with?
So
by
this
voting a
this is a
certain way?
key question in democracy.
Yeah.
And why one of the reasons I don't support democracy. People will never have
All the
fair and
information.
equal information.
Okay.
But we allow them to have the same weight of vote.
But how are we selling the decision? Are we selling? Because here's the thing when you lead.
Yeah,
99% of the leaders sell the dream.
sure.
No one fucking sells the nightmare.
No,
And
that doesn't work at all.
yeah, selling the nightmare is tough.
Well, you sell a nightmare against your opponent, sorry.
So
If you vote for Bobby, then we're never gonna have nice Mercedes Benzes anymore.
here's the salespeople that have worked for me the longest. Here's how I've recruited them. You will work really, really long hours over many, many years.
Yeah,
The first 3 years that you work for me is not where you get paid. It's actually where you get good. Everyone's like, but you're the money guy. Like, look at the parking lot. This price, he comes to work with an M4. Yeah.
Sure.
And he wears LVs to work. But this is his 4th year he's with me.
yeah,
The first 2.5 years, and he's really talented, is not where he got paid. It's where he actually got good. So after the second, third year is when you start getting paid. So I'm selling the dream, but I'm also selling the nightmare, because for 2.5 years, you will be put in situations that challenge you all the time and that keep you in hot water all the time until you know how to overcome them. And that's when you get paid. Now, I could sell you differently in an interview. Come in. By the way, this is Eddie. Those shoes are 32,000 Rand.
come on.
Eddie, how are you, brother? No, I'm good. How are you? Good, good. Eddie, what do you drive? I drive an M4. Really? Eddie, how much did you make last month? I made so much. Now I'm selling the dream.
Oh, if you work here, boy, you can be like Eddie.
I will recruit any salesperson
Yeah.
in the country. The problem is, month 3 comes and the guy's like, yo, but Eds, I'm not even making enough money to be able to buy these shoes in like 2 months. Why is that? You told me I could be like Eddie, but
Yes.
what I forgot to tell you, sorry, brother, when I recruited you is that you have to go through this process,
Yeah.
which is a nightmare until you get to the promised land. So that's how leaders sell. And that's
This is the example you gave is exactly why I hate almost all politicians. Almost all of them do exactly what you're saying.
who doesn't
They
do
just
that?
sell dreams.
Who
No,
doesn't do
there
that?
are certain business people, certain activists, whatever you want to call them, people that are actually trying to actually fix problems in society that sell the nightmare. But politicians almost never.
So
And that's one of the reasons why I hate politics, because the way politics is designed, you sort of forced to sell dreams.
So hence, the leader of a country
Yeah.
needs to be someone that can manage the rest. Meaning, the leader of a country can't be, oh, by the way, this bra here, I endorse him and he's a fantastic guy. And because everybody, looks up to you for the past however many years, and you endorse this bra, now we're going to vote for him. He hasn't been tested.
Sure.
And I'm selling you the dream without the nightmare. The way that, in my opinion, you select it, does he have a trifecta? Has he actually led successfully? What has he led?
Yeah. Okay. I don't think you believe in a true democracy is my takeaway, but it's okay. You believe in democracy or the democratic systems as they currently exist. Please tell me Kamala Harris. What is so amazing about her, and how would you convince an ordinary person to support Kamala?
So, very easy to sell her.
Yeah.
Today. It's very, very easy. Division and conquer is the name of the game. America, most European countries, Bulgaria experienced an election last week Sunday. We had the opportunity to vote for a president. And most African countries, division is the way that you sell the dream.
You don't vote in Bulgaria.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't vote.
But you have the
I do have the
option to.
opportunity. Yeah, I do have
Okay.
the option to. I haven't investigated enough to be able to vote.
Okay.
So I also don't pay any taxes in Bulgaria. So for me, that sort of takes away my right to vote, because I can't complain and point
Do you have
fingers
black
and
tax?
say black tax in Bulgaria. It's a very good question, and initially the answer is yes. However, having been here for 30 odd years, it's non-existent anymore.
Okay.
It doesn't exist for
No,
me.
that's fair.
For
No,
me.
please continue.
So selling
Division.
division, selling. Look at his flaws. Look at her flaws. Look where we are. Look at all this mess. Look at historically. You know, we were oppressed. We just isolated division. That's how, in my opinion, she's positioning herself today, without any real substance. So I can't sell her. I'm just.
How? I thought you were saying it's easy to sell her.
I can't sell her effectively. I can sell her. I can sell the dream. I can't sell the nightmare. The reality is,
You really don't have positive things to say about Kamala Harris.
the reality is, every time someone says, if you elect me, I'll do X, Y, Z, while having ultimate power,
Yeah.
you've completely lost me.
You can't sell her at all. Jesus is sad. Let me try.
You can sell parts of her. Okay, you.
Let me try. I'm not going to sell you. I'm not going to sell you. I want us to have a conversation, because I've already said that we're biased. So people must know we like Donald Trump. I really like playing devil's advocate and trying to figure out the other side, because we may miss a lot. And I prefer nuance very much. I already hate politics. I hate that America, it's just Kaiser Chiefs and Pirates. BMW versus Mercedes-Benz. That's very lazy, you know, because Americans are incredibly dynamic. So are South Africans as well, red or blue. Voting for Kamala Harris and having her win has got such a huge ripple effect for the rest of the future and the rest of the world. Some people may think it's light, but it's not. America's never had a female president. She may not be the greatest. There may have been better female candidates before her, but it's not about that. Because I can tell you now, the first female doctor, engineer, accountant was probably not the greatest of all time. But they led the way for us to kind of take seriously the idea of having a female leader.
Okay.
And she's got merit. She's a vice president. So she's already sat there. She's not just some random lady they got off the street and said, hey, would you like to be a female president? Having her win would be almost at the same level as Barack. Barack today is history. First black, well, mixed race, but first black president of America. And what he did as an orator, to this day, I think he's on the same level as Nelson Mandela in terms of the way he speaks, he moves people. That is something you can't take away from him.
One of the best public speakers who has ever lived.
Yeah, brilliant. So Kamala gives you this opportunity. Yes, you can have Trump. And by the way, Trump has had an opportunity already. So he's not a new guy saying, give me a shot. It's like, you know, we love you. We've voted for you before.
Yeah.
And people didn't vote for you again. So clearly you're not as great as you think. And you kicked and screamed and you're like, they cheated. You're like, oh, wow. So they cheated, but for some weird reason you're coming back to the same system and you're hoping to win. That's convenient for you. Under Trump's presidency, this is me selling Kamala Harris. There's never been the storming of Capitol Hill. Because, this non-white lady is there, let's go and storm. There hasn't been a polarizing of people. You hate Trump, you are, make America. No one is screaming and shouting that supports Harris and losing their marbles. They're not. So she's not riling people up. She doesn't get, you can see her campaigns and say, but she did this. But she's not a Trump that people literally get up.
Can you tell me
Sure.
what she stands for?
No, I'm not going to sell you what she stands for.
Okay.
So
Okay. You're selling her.
I'm not going to sell, let's say, what people want, which is why I was saying what I'm selling may not be important to some people. But it's the same way selling women in certain workspaces was never going to be sexy. That if we have a woman in office, you know, even though she can't lift the equipment, you know, it's just great to have a feminine touch. Like, We don't need it here. We work in mining. And you're like, we understand, but there will be women one day that will have the strength. So we need these ones to break just this. And again, it's not a random woman. It's someone who's the vice president of the country under Joe Biden. You could almost argue, if we were to really, throw a ball somewhere in the dark, Joe Biden, as old, tired as he is, the person that was actually running the country under Biden's administration was actually Harris. This guy is old and sort of senile. So the go-to person would be the vice. We haven't given her a chance. We don't really know maybe what she's about, except for maybe continuing the Biden administration. But if you loved Barack Obama and you thought he was amazing, who do you think Barack's going to be voting for? If you love Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, and you're like, no, I think they were brilliant, do you know who they backing? It's a no-brainer. You like this guy, he's a misogynist. Yes, some people are like, oh, but at least he's real. It's like, do you need to be real in being prejudicial? We can debate the having men in female sports, but we can debate it. This guy's not even allowing the debate. He's saying, no, it's not going to happen. It's like, can we at least talk about it? Can we hear what these people have to say? No, we won't. Because historically we had slavery. If you want to make America great again, should we go get slaves from Africa?
So leadership is, at its core, decision making.
Yeah.
Can you sell her on decision making?
Because you failed to sell her, unfortunately, I will not sell you Harris in a way where you're going to counter, because I know that's what you're trying to do. And unfortunately, everyone who's going to try and do that is going to constantly try and I'm telling you now, she has been vice president. At no point were you ever like, oh, America's going to the dogs. Look at that vice president. You've never. But for some reason now that we're saying, hey, just bump her up. No, we can't make Henry Pollard captain. Now, when was he ever a captain? But he's been winning us World Cup. He was there. Now, all of a sudden, it's a question mark. But that's convenient because
have they
been
winning
issue.
World Cups?
No, that becomes another debate. I've got issues with America in general, whether Trump is at the helm, etc. I don't think necessarily that America becomes so amazing now that Trump is at the helm. It may be slightly better, but they're on the defensive. Versus America, which is saying we're not just about America. You spoke about the leader of the free world. The free world is not just America, it's everyone. We're trying to bring everyone on board to try and make things work. We're not happy, you can judge us, etc. But on the hard issues, we can bring consultants because, again, it's not just about Harris. She's not making these decisions by herself. There's an entire array of people. So you'll see Barack Obama there, but he's not alone. There are so many different advisors and people involved, of which Barack and the Clintons and some of their funders are the people behind her. So she's not working in isolation. She's not a dictator. She's not some tyrant who's going to get the right to press the nuclear bombs. But we've got an opportunity to show the world that America is not anti-women, that America is not just a white supremacist. Yes, we did it with Obama, but show us that you can do it again and give it to a woman who not only is non-white, but she's also not just African. She's also has Indian heritage. So she's so inclusive of so many people out there who young girls out there don't know that it's possible to become president of America.
Okay.
Young black boys know it. I've seen it with Barack. Obviously, all white boys know because they've seen white male presidents. But white girls, sadly, we missed it with Hillary Clinton. But we can kind of fix it now and show girls, all girls, you can become president of America.
So you've sold me on inclusion.
Yes.
You've sold me on non-biased.
Yes.
You've sold me on allowing for debate.
Yes.
You've sold me on the dream that if I'm Indian or black or a woman or a girl, I can one day aspire to become the president of the States.
Yes.
Okay, that's what you sold.
Generally, yes. But this was me making an attempt as a biased Trump fan of trying to sell it. And you failed.
It's not enough.
No, it's not enough for you.
You failed like as hard as I failed because at one or other stage,
never that.
At one or other stage, there's going to be
I wasn't selling it to you, by the way. Sorry.
There's going to be a Putin and a Zelensky. Okay.
Yes.
Where Ukraine is the apple in the eye of Putin. And they've destroyed their youths, both their youths. And you have to sit them down and say, we've left you guys long enough, funded, whatever the games that they play. We want people to stop dying now. We want fathers and mothers to stop burying their kids, because you know what I heard? It's
I can't believe we want to
awesome.
speak about American politics for the entire episode.
No, we spoke about leadership and opposing opinion. So war is young men who never met each other,
Yeah.
killing each other
Yes.
over the opinions of old men who've met each other.
Yes.
Huh?
Give a reference to Elon Musk. Stop biting, plagiarist.
Yeah, that's freaking awesome.
It's brilliant.
It's brilliant.
He probably stole it from somewhere else as well, Elon.
From Grok.
Okay.
He said, give me some cool shit to talk about when I go and get interviewed.
It's one of the coolest lines. War is literally young men who don't know each other killing each other over old men who actually don't know each other.
Okay, so now selling me inclusion and opportunity and debate, and it's not enough when those two guys are in the room. It's not enough.
No, it's not.
In my opinion, it's
So,
not enough.
so part of the question of why I asked you about democracy is because life is not about you. Life is not about you. America is not about you.
Yeah.
It's not about business people. It's not about intellectuals and academics. It's not about the smart guys that understand foreign policy. It's not about war strategists. It's about ordinary people. And when some of us Trump supporters speak up, we believe we're smart and we know better and we understand life better, but that's not democracy. Democracy is actually also listening to the non-taxpayer, the idiot, the drunkard. It's also listening to the people you really don't like and be like, but what does Harris think about Russia and Ukraine? It's like, but she doesn't. You're like, but we'd still like to hear what she has to say.
So
and not only that, again, she won't be making the decision on her own. She may consult the exact same advisors as Trump. Not necessarily in her cabinet, but people have the same access to the same information. They may reach different conclusions, but again, this is a Kamala Harris who was vice president while Biden and the guys are involved in conflict. Yeah. So she has an understanding and some kind of idea, and we'd argue some experience in the decision-making around warfare.
Why hasn't the war ended, though?
That becomes a question that we'd need to ask, I think, both political candidates. So you said earlier that you enjoy the fanfare around American politics. And the one thing I will agree on, because I said it's not real, and you're like, no, you disagree, and you're right. The last time we had prospective presidential candidates debate was F.W. de Klerk and Nelson Mandela. We haven't had that since. And I may hate politics and I may hate politicians, but it wouldn't be nice to listen to Cyril debating John Steenhuisen, debating Julius Malema, debating Gayton McKenzie.
I would love to see that.
Velenkosini Hlabisa. Yes, they may not say the right things. Yes, their political parties may be strong and give out free T-shirts and they may end up winning. But for the betterment of ordinary South Africans, we'd like to know the level of thinking. What are your views on healthcare? Genuinely. John Steenhuisen, do you think black people should not get grants? No, I don't. Then what is it? It seems like the DA hates black people. We don't. This is what we've done in places like the Western Cape. This is when you're like, oh, I didn't know that. Because this happens when I sit on podcasts with politicians. I didn't know Orania. Exactly. And it's like the guys leading the country, all of them, refuse to do these things because they don't want the citizens to be armed with information. I didn't know the ANC doesn't believe in putting black people first, because they don't. The ANC is a non-racialist political party. So when you're like, but they've got a white Barbara Creasy, you're like, it's because they're non-racial. No, but you're like, they're not a pro-black. Maybe you'll argue that they seem, but the whole concept of BEE enshrined in the Constitution is to fix the imbalances of the past. So sadly, for AfriForum, it is not meant to be racism. It's meant to say, but guys, if the little white boy grew up in poverty, we are trying to lift him up. AfriForum must then argue that that boy was also previously disadvantaged. I know he's white, but please include him. Then if they counter, but he's not black, they need to say, the reason we won't include him is because there are all these white companies and AfriForum should be knocking on the doors of the white companies because they already have the money. That's now a healthier
Yes.
conversation because
Yes.
we're trying to fix all the imbalances.
And
Anyways,
allow
so
opposing
those
opinion.
those debates would be nice, and I'm not sold. Maybe let me use this chance. We're now going to just speak American politics. No, I'd like you to talk. I wanted to speak about the podcasts. I'd like you to talk.
Which podcast?
I don't want to talk too much.
Which podcast?
Donald Trump going on Joe Rogan. I know he's been on Lex Friedman, he's been on Theo Vaughn, he's been on a couple of others. Kamala Harris being on Club Shay Shay and how rubbish that was. And the fact that Joe Rogan has invited her, and who knows, maybe they'll sit soon. I'm not sure. You still have nothing to sell on Kamala Harris. And again, we're not selling to you or people like you. I'm asking you to your audience to be like, guys, if you're a woman, please vote for Kamala Harris. If you love Africa, she's a weak president. So this will be really great for us. So vote for Kamala Harris. Or some of our policies, to what you're saying, are inclusive. She's been there with Joe Biden, and many people prefer the Biden administration to the Trump. And if you want a continuation of the Biden administration or a continuation of the Obama administration, she's big on Obamacare, just similar to NHI, to make sure that poor people have got access to healthcare. She's saying we need to tax the rich. Rich people like Bobby are living their best lives while you're poor. Trump is saying, don't tax the rich. Make sure that we carry on being rich and live in Trump Towers. Like, but bro, that's not fair. And Harris is saying, look, the rich have they have a responsibility to fix the inequalities in this country. America's going to shit. Anyone who knows America properly. You speak about Hillbrow and Yeovil and Josie versus Josie on Twitter. If you could see what real America looks like. So people like Harris are saying, but rich people are very quick to defend themselves, but they're not doing the right things. And it was the rich, by the way, who started off exporting jobs to places like China and Vietnam and India to try and undercut. And as much as Trump is saying, put America first, it was the rich people that fucked it up in the first place, where ordinary Americans actually just wanted to work.
The counter argument on taxation is, if you look at what happened when taxation was reduced, companies actually could afford more people to work for them. So that created jobs, which created more taxation, which created more money for the government. Funny how that works, right?
Yeah, it doesn't happen, sorry. As much as you counter arguing, it doesn't happen. We've had it in South Africa in many ways. We've had companies, we've had economic policies that were much better economically. It didn't trickle down to the people. Because we can look at it on a 30-year forecast now. I know people want to blame Zuma's 9 years, but it's not. Some people blame COVID, which it's not. Rich people, what they did in that time, companies that were making more money, they took that money, they automated. They took that money, they outsourced to India, to China. They took that money, they put it in offshore investments. They didn't invest in South Africa. Otherwise, we'd see the fruits of it now.
Which companies are those? Which companies?
I'm not going to mention the companies. That's wrong. I'll say just the big companies in South Africa.
Okay.
When they make money, there's a similar argument to when petrol prices go down, food doesn't go down.
What percentage of the big companies contribute to the economy versus the smaller companies? We're a small company. As we grew, we employed more people.
Are you disputing what I'm saying?
Yes, 100%.
You're saying in South Africa in the 30 years when the economy was good, there was a direct proportion to jobs being created.
You said taxation.
No, we were speaking about tax because when you speak about tax, the argument was when companies are taxed less, they create more jobs. And I'm saying when companies do well, whether they cut on costs, whether they increase revenue, whether you cut the tax, they don't create jobs. That's my argument. So there's no proof that companies, when they're like, oh, tax cut, whew, now we can hire. Because companies are not in the business of job creation. They're in the business of maximizing profit for the shareholder. I'm asking if you're disputing that.
Yes.
Okay.
Because that's big corporate structured companies, which is probably single-digit percentage contributing to the economy.
Big companies generally don't pay tax, but please continue.
Yeah, small to medium-sized businesses.
Yeah.
The more freedom and the better environment you find yourself economically, that inspires growth. Growth inspires job creation.
They tend to have the best tax regimes, by the way, in South Africa. People that benefit the most from tax cuts will be just the big guys. The small guys, as it stands, in America or here, a lot of grants, a lot of tax breaks, a lot. even the way BEE is set up, they have a lot of advantages. The issue is the big corporate. So you're trying to defend tax cuts using small and medium, but the people that will actually benefit are the big guys. And I'm saying the big guys are the problem. But they will benefit, unless if you're saying
But the
cut tax
contribution-
for the small guys. If that's
No.
your argument,
No,
sure.
it's not.
But if you're saying it's for the big guys, because they'll create jobs,
No.
they won't.
As a whole,
Yeah.
if you look at the contribution from big business towards the GDP and small to medium-sized businesses, who contributes more?
I don't know.
It's small to medium-sized businesses. It's thousands, literally hundreds of thousands.
Sure.
Your spaza shop that opened. It's a good economic environment. People have more money. People can shop more. So now all of a sudden, we are growing turnover from 1,000 Rand a day to 3,000 Rand a day to 5,000 Rand a day. One bucky is not enough for us to go and shop 5,000 Rand a day's stock. We need to buy another bucky, more into the economy. Well, who's going to drive the bucky? A second driver. All right. When that bucky is due for tires and fuel, etc., that's what I'm talking about.
So tax cuts for small businesses. This is not the rich anymore. Because the small and medium businesses are no different to the ordinary middle class. They earn there with school teachers and the like.
We're arguing tax cuts. Is
Yes.
it good for the economy or is it good for the rich people?
So your argument was employment, and that's all I was countering.
Yes.
Because what's good for the economy
Is employment.
may not create jobs. I'm saying there's no direct link. Our economy could double next year because what's a big company? The gold price doubles and all the mines double their income. So GDP went through the roof, but
Right.
no jobs were created. It just happened that gold doubled
But it won't.
and people
though.
made money.
It can't because it's regulated.
It can't?
It can't because it's regulated.
What, it
it
can't?
can't double. It
What
can't
can't
double.
double?
The gold price can't
No,
double.
okay. I was just using it as an
Can't-
example. I'm
so-
just saying our economy grows because some company is now exporting to China. They got big contracts.
Okay.
And I'm saying you may find that money, it's going to be registered here, but it may not even be spent here. They're going to use that money to go build a plant in Germany.
Back to leader, product,
Sure,
recruitment,
sure,
accountability culture.
sure.
So if you have a fantastic leader that all of a sudden stimulates the product, stimulates
Sure.
the economy, stimulates, attracts, stimulates. We had a reduction in our interest rate last month. Everybody's predicting that this month it might even go down by 0.5%.
Sure.
We are hoping that when it goes down, if it goes, and when it goes down, I want to speak life into it. Will go down, please. we really need it. That automatically frees up. I think the number on the laws of averages is 2,300 Rand for last month's cut of 0.5 and this next one of 0.05. 2,300 Rand average
Yeah.
on saving on
Excuse me.
home loan and cars for South Africa. So 2,300 Rand additional income will stimulate the economy.
Yeah.
The only way, and I'm not praising or kicking anyone, the only way that is sustained over a long period of time, sustained and grown, is through a good leader. Because when we find ourselves in that position, how do we not fuck it up again?
We don't have good leaders, unfortunately. You know, we've lost a lot of businesses. It's not necessarily because listing on a stock exchange is more about raising capital. But with that being said, what happens is wherever you raise the capital, you become a worker of whoever funded you. So if I'm listing in New York and the shareholders are now in New York, but my company is based in South Africa, essentially I'm working for people in New York. We allowed one of our biggest companies, Naspers, to go and list in the Netherlands. The argument was, of course, the JSE was not big enough, which is fair. You know, if your company is too big, I mean, you can only fight so much. But we lost a unicorn company here, which was already even eating money from China through Tencent and WeChat. We lost that. It's gone. We lost Afkri.
That's horrible.
One of the beacons of the Afrikaner community, you know, biggest grain business on the continent. We lost that. It's now owned by Americans. Some of the news I've been seeing, well, besides the businesses that are being hammered, like Westpac is under business rescue. AutoZone is under business rescue. Pet Zone as well. There was a popular footwear brand, Drip, under Likao, which is now gone into liquidation.
I actually
We-
saw that.
You
I
saw
saw
that?
that, yeah.
A lot of businesses have either been sold to foreign entities, which means as much as you're buying a McDonald's burger in South Africa, you're actually building wealth for Americans, as an example. There might be a few little jobs here and there here, but essentially, we don't have the leaders that put South Africa first. And to what I was saying, without going back to the argument, it makes me sad that we are not building an economy and a country that prioritizes South Africans. I didn't even want to interject when you were speaking about spaza shops, because a spaza shop might grow, but that's not going to be black employment. That's for the Pakistani, the Somalian, the Ethiopian, and they end up
But-
owning the wholesalers.
But why though?
Why?
Why?
So moving away from the
Let's jump on that, because
debate.
it's a very serious topic.
The why is very simple to say, but very difficult to execute, and also very difficult to digest for ordinary people. I think we're done with American politics. You're happy?
Yeah.
We're not going to speak about the podcast.
No.
No, okay. But people can go and check out the podcast episodes. And we're done with American politics. Good luck to all Americans voting. If you're
Done.
in America and you watch Unapologetic, we love you. We appreciate you. Make the right choice. For all of us, not just for you guys.
Please, we need our rates to continue going down.
We spoke about tax cuts, which was an offshoot. And your opinion is that when there are tax cuts, it's good for the economy, which has a spillover effect. Maybe not just jobs, but in various ways
Yeah.
for ordinary South Africans or anyone else, which is fair. And I debated you. I'm happy for us to disagree. There's an argument, it's a conspiracy theory, that one of the reasons apartheid ended is because not just the apartheid government, but many stakeholders in South African business and abroad saw the danger of Bantustans rising. The TBVC, Transkei, Bophuthatswana, Venda, Ciskei. Because KwaZulu was not necessarily a Bantustan, but sort of operated like. There was a danger in the rise of the Bantustans, and there was let's build a rainbow nation, let's integrate South Africa, let's not have these independent states, because they are doing so well. Bophuthatswana under Mangope was doing well, it was developing. I mean, that's where Saul Kersner went and built Sun City. I said to General Bantu Olomisa, he was speaking about the Transkei as the leader of the Transkei at a point, and some of the development there. May not have been a Bantustan, but you look at KwaZulu, where they ended up with their own bank, Itala. There was a lot of development. There were educational institutions. One of the greatest universities we had for black people would be Fort Hare, which is kind of disintegrated now, where Mandela, Mugabe, I don't know if Mandela was there, may have been, Mugabe and other leaders went to. So it was like, these places are developing. So we need to dismantle this development and create one South Africa so that our businesses, these big monopolies, can operate in all these different spaces. Because if we want to operate in this space, we want to have to speak to the leader there, and they're going to have their own.
That's revenue, right? You want to grow revenue.
You
How do
wanna
we
grow.
creep into every little creek of the
Yes.
country?
But they're going to have their own terms and conditions, which we may not like.
And this uprising is a threat.
Yeah. So there's an argument for that. Now, why I raise this conspiracy theory is at that time, there was for Woods a good neighborliness of apartheid. There was this thing of developing separately, which we've been told now with Nelson Mandela and the ANC and the Rainbow Nation, that's bad. Which arguably the people of Orania and others are like, no, but we want to do our own thing. We have our own culture, we do things our own way. My understanding is there weren't things like social grants and the like at the time. So if you wanted to feed your family, you needed to work. You needed to be a police officer, you needed to drive a truck, you needed to be a nurse, you needed to work in a retail store, whatever the case may be. And yes, black people were excluded from the big mainstream economy, which was wrong and it was bad. But they were blue-collar and white-collar workers. And they were providing. And there was no, if you pop a baby, you'll get free money. If you, etc. If you want a house, you build your own house. Now, I believe black people lost spaza shops, and spaza shops were a I guess you'd call them a product of apartheid and colonialism, the spaza shop industry, stokvels as well, and the taxi industry. Because the way our economy was set up, black people couldn't open nice stores like Trip and Patu or Makosa in the malls and suburbia. Black people had to move, if not by train, by a taxi from the township to go and work in the suburbs as a domestic worker or a gardener. Black people couldn't engage in mainstream banking, so you needed the stokvels to be able to fund any economic activity. Once liberation came and everything was, we're all here to enjoy, that little bit of self-doing and doing for yourself and self-sustenance that even the black consciousness leader, Stephen Bantu Bigo, would be an ambassador for, and even people like Robert Sobukwe of the Pan-Africanist Congress was big on doing for yourself. That seemed to go away. Now it became a worshipping of the government, and the government will do for us, not that we will do for ourselves. And in doing that became the liberalization of the economy, which allowed not just big businesses like USave and PEP to come in, but also now the loss of sovereignty of our country where illegals come in. The Ethiopians, the Somalians, the Pakistanis, the Bangladeshis, to come and play in a certain space. Now, competition is not meant to be bad. If all your paperwork is fine, you've got a business license.
Now my ears are up. Competition, yes.
Oh, if all of these things tick the box,
yes,
and the Pakistanis, Somalians, Ethiopians come in and they open a spaza shop and they say, oh, black South Africans open at 9. We'll open at 6. Black South Africans close at 5. They want to go and watch the bold and the beautiful days of our lives.
Yes.
We'll operate till 10 p.m.
Yes.
And then they make sure that they buy in bulk, economies of scale. They make sure that their costs of operation are low. You can argue the hygiene, but they sleep in the shop. They don't have to pay rent. That's why they can open in the morning, because they're right there. They get a little old Toyota Corolla to put their stock in, and they all supplying the same spaza shop. So they're like, we'll have one car that supplies all of us. And then all the little bit of extra money we have, we just opening new shops. I'm not buying the latest Kavela. I'm not chilling with Uncle Bobby and I want a kusheshe.
I love Kavelas.
Hey, son, no gold tooth, no gold earrings, no chain. I'm not buying a kusheshe. I'm wearing second-hand clothes. I'm pushing business. That's competition. Now, in a situation like that, I'd say the reason black people lost the spaza shop industry is because of superior competition. But that wouldn't be accurate, because there are all these other factors that I've mentioned that have led to the demise of black-owned. If you were to allow, because the one thing protecting them now is violence, if you allow those same players to go into the taxi industry, operating the same way, we would have taxis that operate 24 hours a day. They would fetch you in front of your doorstep, because the Pakistanis would figure out a way to get the cheapest petrol somewhere or steal it to make sure that their taxis are not just 16-seaters. They in the 16-seater, they fit 30 people, and they find ways to, they'd make it work in some way, and we'd have taxis operating 24 hours. They would be cheaper because they'd find a way to circumvent certain things, and. But because of violence, they can't enter that. Unfortunately, the spaza shop industry didn't have violence. If they did, and it was run like the taxi industry, they would have never been able to get in, because it would have been like, you only have a route to have a spaza shop in this street here, Kwa Petkov. So only here can you have if you don't have a license, you're not a part of Santaco, you can't operate here, Baba, and there'll be a Shambo Kimvubu to make sure that they shut you down. Unfortunately, that was liberal. Free market system. So if you have a better product, a cheaper product, you open more hours, people can buy from you. And that's how we lost it. Now, to fix it would require us to go back to so-called draconian ways of living. An aggressive investment in our schooling system. For me, the beginning and the end of changing this country, any country, lies in every single citizen and what asset or liability they are. If as soon as your child is born, they become a liability to the country, child grant, free healthcare, living in an RTP house, free schooling, getting fed. After that, they get NSFAS. After that, they get an SRD grant because they're unemployed, 370. When they get old, they get a pension. At no point were they ever an asset. They're a liability. We have to ask, how are you developing these individuals? Because they are just liabilities. They never amount to anything. The next country says from birth, oh, child labor. Sure, whatever. The countries that we admire today, your Chinas, your Indias, they did that hard stuff that we used to do. I used to do garden work at my home. Some boys used to be sent by their fathers to go and sell stuff. Some kids have to wash cars, and that's child labor. But you are creating an asset in a person. And you send them to a school which has been destroyed today, where the boys are doing woodwork, where the boys are doing plumbing, fitting and turning, where the girls are doing sewing, typing. They're doing home economics. They can bake and they can cook. So that when this child leaves grade 9 and is 16, or when this child leaves matric at age 18, they now have skills and they are assets. When this child goes to university, they're going to learn something of substance. And you're sending them into a world where even if there are no jobs from companies, to what you were saying, they can start a small enterprise and start a spaza shop, start a car wash business because they saw Uncle Bobby's got a car dealership. I want to wash your cars. How much do you pay? I can undercut these guys. I can clean your cars 24 hours a day. And then we start saying the reason that country is valuable is because they invest in the people. And this country of ours today, and the reason we can't even think of competing, is because we are giving birth to liabilities who, all the way to death, are nothing but a burden to the few handful of people that actually work.
So this is why I believe so much in podcasts and having people like you on podcasts. You must go on more, by the way, because what do young people, children, from the age of 5, 6, 7 years old, all the way up to 15, 16, because that's when you are most influenceable from the outside, not from the inside. Till 5 years old, mom and dad say, hey, if you do bah, against your bum or against your head, depending on, what's closer. Or when the mom throws the plucky, wherever she hits you, she's like, yes, I hit you. So you are influenced from inside out versus 5, 6, 7 years old from outside in.
Yeah.
So what are people actually seeing outside? Who do they look up to? Do they look up to the uncle with the gusheshe that's unemployed at the car wash? Or do they look up to the people that... And now, here's the dangerous part. The immigrant mentality of the Pakistani people and all the people that have infiltrated and have taken over.
Sorry, we can add the Greeks, the Lebanese, the Portuguese, because we were just speaking about spaza shops. There are a lot of immigrants in this country that came with the same mindset you speak about.
Okay. Now put the 7-year-old and pin that 7-year-old up against the 7-year-old. Let's talk spaza shops.
Sure.
So 7-year-old child of a Pakistani, what do they see constantly?
Yeah.
Every day. Hard work.
Yeah.
Business mind. Trade. They're working out numbers the whole time.
100%.
Okay.
Those are Indian kids, by the way, the ones whose parents own shops.
Yeah. So we're buying at 15 Rand, we're selling at 17 Rand.
Yeah.
But we're selling 500 of them a day. Versus we're buying at 30 Rand, selling at 60 Rand,
Yes.
but we're only selling 10 a day. What is better? Where do we place which product? So that everybody's being programmed. The 7-year-old in the spaza shop, where mom and dad are the owners, is being programmed completely differently to the 7-year-old that's on TikTok, and parents get grants.
Yeah. So one of the points you mentioned in your 5 points, which is, to be honest, the most important one. I almost said that one, but I decided not to, and I went for systems. Culture.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll speak systems, we'll speak a sales leader, we'll speak all these beautiful things. And in the exact same South Africa is a very wealthy Jewish Muslim family and an extremely poor black colored family. And you're like, but same legal system, same president, same. And the difference there is culture. If you can fix, if the schools are failing you, if your church or your mosque or your synagogue are failing you, if TV is failing you, if the politicians are failing you, the only thing you have left is to create or join a progressive culture. I read books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Richest Man in Babylon, all these books. And even some of the hip-hop guys I'd listen to, by the way, Rick Ross, Jay-Z, 50 Cent. And then you go and you meet the Jewish timers and you meet the Muslim Balis, and you start realizing there's a different culture here, to a point where if people were to ever steal my phone and go through my social media, you look at who I'm following. You look at what the algorithms are feeding. There's, I think it's called School of Hard Knocks, if I'm not mistaken, on TikTok. This young boy that goes around interviewing
Yes.
rich people and asking questions. How did you make money? And those are the things that get me going. The next person is watching dance challenges.
Okay.
The next person is watching rubbish. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. Who creates culture? Because you mentioned something very important.
Yeah.
When you look at the Indian and the Jewish Balis, those are the leaders that created the culture.
So we, yes. Let's say yes. So from a South African perspective, we are a very diverse nation. When we speak about some of the most successful groups, they are not a function of, well, let me say this. They are a function of their religious beliefs. Because there are various systems you can plug into that can change your culture. It can be a school, it can be a church, it can be TV, it can be politics.
It boils down to the leader.
Yes, that's why I hesitated, and I was like, you're right.
Because everything boils down to the leader.
So I want to say, so schooling transcends religion, politics, and because it's the one place we're all meant to go to. So even if your church is letting you down, even if at home things are kind of fucked up, even if whatever's on TikTok, if the place where you are in your formative years is creating a culture, a certain culture, then by the time you get out into the world and people are like, oh, let's go smoke this, you're like, ish, I would, but my Bali, Yanni Muton of PSG speaks about this, that his father would make him sit on the phone every day to track how the stocks are doing. Now you're learning how to track stocks and how companies are doing. Aisha has to go home because her mom needs her to work behind the till. I want to go play, but if the school is not doing that, where I want to go smoke, but geez, we have to do stock taking in the classroom. I want to go, but hey, bro, we need to go and water our plants. We haven't milked the cows because at school, we milk the cows, we weed the garden, we plant the seeds, we're counting the money, we're pushing entrepreneurship. By the time you get out, you're like, nah, I hate the schooling system. It's oppressive. It's child labor. I've seen countries where the people just get to chill. I want to be like that. If the culture hits you strong enough, sooner rather than later, you're going to find yourself being like, let me go water the garden. Let me go wash the car. Let me go and make a bit of money. And it becomes a culture. Because when you're chilling with some of these families, now outside of the Jews and the Muslims, I know black families, colored families, white families who are also plugged into business and hustle and those things. All you're talking about, when guys are like, did you see the soccer score? They're like, hey, bro, I just saw that these guys are going into business rescue. I just want to find out if they're auctioning some of their furniture. I'm going to find out if we can get it at a steal. You know, my uncle was actually the landlord there, so that means that shop might be up for grabs. I know there's a lot of foot traffic. The mindset is different. It's not, hey, they just signed this player. Hey, we're going to be winning the league. Does that affect you? Outside of sports betting, does it affect your life? It doesn't. This next guy's like, hey, they just signed this guy. That means they're going to need a new kit. My uncle supplies uniform. Let me see if we can bid for the uniform for the different culture, different mindset. Sorry.
All led by the leader.
Yes. I don't disagree with that at all.
The first real, that hit me moment I ever had in business was in Standard 7.
You're so old.
Standard 7.
Kids, that's grade 9. Jeez, I'm so sorry for this body who's sitting here.
So I went to Willow Ridge High School. We wore khaki shorts with socks.
Yeah.
And we had black shoes and a tie. And I was naughty. I hung out with all the naughty kids and we smoked cigarettes. And
rubbish.
Our business economics teacher, I'll never forget him. He was a substitute teacher for 6 months. His surname was Mr. Othinodoro. So he was a Greek man.
Come on.
I'm sitting in front because I wasn't allowed to sit at the back because I'll throw things at kids. And so I'm sitting in front and he overhears me say, I don't have cigarettes, to my friend, to my homie here. So he says, did you forget to buy this morning? He said, yes, I did. He says, well, I can sell you a loose straw.
This is in primary school?
No, high school.
High school, okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
So he says to me, I can sell you a loose straw. I said, cool. And then he says, 5 rand. I said, but the shops are 1 rand. He says, but you can't go to the shops because the school's closed.
Boom.
So I can sell you one at 5 rand. I'm like, shit, can I have 2 for 5 rand? He said, no, you can have 1 for 5 rand. So I give him 5 rand, he gives me a smoke. I used to hide it in my tie.
Yes, that's where the boys hide them.
Yeah, because they would say
Just for all the schools out there, go check the boys' ties, man. Jeez. Well, and the girls these days, yo.
Yeah, so supply and demand. He taught me, he said, like, valuable business lesson, supply and demand. And his phone used to ring the whole time, and he used to be on his phone.
While he was in class.
While he was in class, and he, what the fuck are you doing? And he was trading stocks. Yeah. So it's like, sell, buy. So that's the first impactful thing. So the leader opened my mind, and he taught me supply and demand.
Yeah.
He basically checkmated me in an argument where I tried to get a discount for a loose draw at standard grade 9.
Shout out to you for negotiating. There are people that don't know that negotiating is part of the game, by the way.
Bro, I had 10 rand on me. So, like, if I could get 2 for 5 rand, then I could have bought a cool drink or a pie. So he took 5 rand. I had 1 smoke. I had the smoke and a whatever. But that was the leader instilling a belief system in my mind at that very young age, constantly thinking about supply and demand.
Yeah.
Until this day.
Yeah.
Yesterday, we bought 8 brand new Suzuki Swifts because I know, insider trading, there's going to be, I couldn't get more, but I know I think on the 12th or the 13th of November, there's going to be a 3% price increase. So between now and then,
Is this really insider trading?
Yeah.
People don't know this. You're going to get into trouble.
The OEMs announced it to the people that are supposed to, but someone spilled the beans. And I ordered.
Bobby is a snitch. Don't ever tell him anything.
And I ordered another 12 so that I can have 20 at the old price.
Yeah.
So that when the new price comes out, I'm 8 grand cheaper than the new one.
Arbitrage. Yeah. You don't even need to increase price just to flip.
Yeah, supply and demand. Supply and demand. I know the demand is going to be there because it's a reasonably priced, it's not cheap, it's a reasonably priced, affordable, nice car that I really like because it doesn't give me comebacks. And in a week and a bit, I'm going to be 9,000 rand cheaper than the new one, and I've got 20. So I'm going to make money. Yes. They're going to sell like hotcakes. If I can get another 50, anybody watching this before the price increase, give me a shout. I'll buy another 50. But that leader instilled a belief system in me at a very young age, which has made me a lot of money.
Please tell the kids that smoking is bad for them and that you've quit, because that's also important.
Yeah, smoking is horrible to your health. I really enjoyed smoking. It was such a cool thing to smoke, but on my health it wasn't good. I used to cough so much that I thought I was gonna die. So that's when I quit.
Thank you. Elsie, you happy? Must we shut it down?
1 hour, 40 minutes.
Jeez. Yes. We've been talking. You still want to talk?
I really enjoyed this.
Are we done? I didn't go through any of my points. You know, American politics, I thought it was going to be like 2 minutes. Just, hey, who are you voting for? No, I like Trump. I like Harris. And they're like, okay, next topic.
I think because it's so publicly debated, it's very, the heat is there. And I have an opinion, you have an opinion, like, this person is wrong because they did 1, 2, 3, 4. But what lesson can we learn? Like, what good, bad, and ugly. What can I take away from a Donald Trump mistake, for example, that I'm like, shit, he did this. This is where it went. So don't say this or don't do this. Yeah. Same with Kamala Harris. Changing the way that she speaks when she addresses a African-American crowd versus addressing...
so patronizing, that thing. I hate it so much.
Yes, I agree.
No, please continue.
Yeah. So I think that's why we both love it, because it's sensationalized and it's in your face the whole time, and it makes you want to either have an opinion against whatever's happening or with, like, I support you. And I think closer to the election now, even people that I follow, that I respect, that have a strong opinion, are coming out. Even Elon Musk, he said the other day, he says, well, if DJ Trump doesn't win, I'm fucked. I'm like, yes, you are. He actually said that, I am fucked. I'm like, you are.
He's putting a lot of money.
You are.
I think over 200 million.
Yeah.
Dollars.
Yeah. In
And
the
he's
campaign.
set up, this is my theory, he's set up the algorithms on Twitter so that we're forced to consume all of this rubbish. I hate it so much, but it's his platform and he's behaving just like mainstream media. I've got two very important points that I want to raise.
Sure.
Two or three. Three. I'm going to try and keep them short. You send this into the universe and you hope someone somewhere hears it. We need a review of the Children's Act in South Africa. I'm a victim of the bias of the courts. So we spoke about leaders and systems. Our courts, and specifically the Children's Act, speaks about what's in the best interest of the child, which sounds very beautiful when you hear it. But what's in the best interest of the child? Sure. I actually think we need to change that to become what's in the best interest of the family. That is the child, the mom, and the dad. Because it becomes, without realizing, it's a form of division. Because if we say what's in the best interest of the woman, it almost means someone's going to get prejudiced, and it's probably the man. So
Polarizing, yeah.
whatever decision needs to be made needs to consider child, mom, and dad. It can't just be just because the child is happy eating ice cream every day that it's great, because it probably isn't. So I think they need to change that, number one. A lot of people have been getting hammered. We didn't get a chance to speak about this. There was a stepfather that was forced to carry on maintaining kids that are not his, even though the father's already maintaining. There's a man.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a man who was arrested. He's a businessman, so the judge was like, okay, you'll serve on weekends. Crazy. Friday evening till Monday morning, because the court ordered him to pay 60,000 rand a month for his 3 children. And I think he was sending, if I'm not mistaken, 22,000. He was arrested just for the difference. And he said, but business is struggling. And he's like, but the court order said this. I'm sure there's more to the case. But
What do the kids need? Sorry, just a side question.
Sure.
For 66,000, how many kids does he have?
3.
3 kids.
Sure.
66,000 a month.
Yes.
For 3 children.
60,000. He was
60.
sending 22.
So what?
So the 22 is about 7,000 per child. The
So-
60 is 20,000 per child.
20,000 rand per child.
Yes.
I'm confused, but sorry.
Don't be
let me just
confused. You're just
process
poor. You're just poor. You're not confused. You're poor. Don't worry about it. When you're rich one day, you'll understand. So again, this is what I'm saying. It might be in the best interest of the child to get 20,000, but isn't in the best interest of the family?
No.
Is it in the best interest of the father? Do you have a healthy father who's loving, who enjoys working hard for you? Or is your father getting hammered for what's best for you? Kind of situation. So we need to review some of these things.
You knocked me good there.
I'm so sorry. I think Hilton is almost at 400,000 school fees a year. That's the most expensive school in the country officially. I know AISJ on the other side of Four Ways is more expensive, but it's mostly for kids of diplomats. And the
400K a
African
year.
Leadership Academy in Honeydew is also more expensive, but officially Hilton's at about 400. So over 10 months, that's 40,000 a month. So already your 20,000 is seeing flames there.
Can we unpack a little bit of the curriculum there? What? I
I
would
don't
love to
want to
go.
unpack. We don't have time.
Okay. Next
Maybe.
time.
Probably not. But
Okay.
if we ever remember,
Okay.
I will say this. The curriculum is no different to other private schools.
Same.
Yes. IEB. They write the same exams. They go to the same varsities. Studying at Rhodes and Wits, UJ with the same Hilton boys.
You know what's
They
not
don't
the
go
same?
to like a VIP.
You know what's not the same?
What's
though?
not the same?
I'll argue. The circle of associates you create going there. That's not the
Going
same.
to Wits.
Versus
Going to Wits.
Wits versus the
Going
high
to
school.
Wits.
The high school. The 400K.
Yeah, but we're studying at Wits together and they're my mates. I'm just asking.
No, before we go to Wits, the high school. The 400K.
Am I not going to befriend them at Wits is my question.
Well, you might. You
Might.
Or you might not befriend them. Just
So I also
associates.
could go to the same high school and we might not like each other
So
because he stole my girlfriend.
So maybe you'll have a deeper bond and a relationship that lasts a long time if you spend 5 years together.
At varsity.
No, at high school.
What's special about high school?
It's 400K. I don't know what's
So
special. I never went there.
I'm going to be friends with you because our parents are rich.
So I've got a Jewish ex-friend
Sure.
that
We must talk about this next time because you're very right, by the way.
and
But I'll explain why I have issues with,
in
with
60
this
seconds.
narrative.
In 60 seconds.
Go for it.
He went to the best schools. Primary, high school, best university.
Yeah.
Okay. And his vast network I'm jealous of.
Yeah.
So when we were homies, before he sold me a car which the mileage was turned back. So publicly, I'm not going to name him, but he knows who he is. Asshole. He sold me a Porsche where I caught him red-handed. I'm like, bro, you turned the mileage back. You
That's a real thing.
Real thing.
That's crazy.
In fact.
Are you guys still mates?
In fact, this watch.
This is what happens when you go to expensive schools.
This watch was a gift from him to me. A tag. This watch. He gave me this watch.
This is a tag here.
Yeah, real
You're
one.
fucking rich. So
Real one.
why are you complaining about 20,000?
I never bought it. He bought it
Oh,
for
it was
me.
a gift.
He gifted me this because I helped him make a lot of money on a deal. So he gave me a watch. I'm like, cool. And then a week later, he sold me a Porsche with turned back mileage.
It's because he went to the best schools.
So anyway,
His vast network.
his vast network. I have an issue or challenge. I need to connect with this person because this person knows this person that can assist me in this way. He says, no problem. I know him. He knows him. 3 calls later, he's connected me with I'm like, dude, it's amazing.
I'll explain why I have an issue with the narrative, but you're very right.
Yeah.
But there's a misunderstanding of this narrative. I don't want us to go down a rabbit hole. Because a lot of people, your friend specifically, is probably unique.
Very unique. He's a scallum.
Well, that's not really unique in South Africa. You should go into politics. I wanted to say there's a chance that most of his mates in the network, maybe not the network, most of his mates he went to school with are not like him, by the way.
Yeah.
Speaking law of averages, but
Yeah.
we'll discuss it another day. The courts need to change. The people that are in the courts need to stop being biased. And one of the biggest biases we have in the best interest of the children is that mothers overwhelmingly by far have so much more contact time with their kids, which is not really a bad thing. Mothers are great. They are nurturers, natural nurturers. But
I think it should be that way.
so that becomes one of the debates.
Should
But
be
in the
that
Children's Act, it's meant to be 50-50. Children miss out on...
I don't agree.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
I'm just saying children miss out on masculinity and fathers because of this bias, because the bias is so heavy. If you just go on a standard parenting plan, it's 4 days a month for a father. 4 days. And then you split holidays. So
Sure.
you may find that those holidays, the father doesn't even get the
Only
child.
4 days.
Only 4 days, every
didn't
second
know that.
weekend. So as much as, yes, the mom should get, I understand, natural nurturer, but there's so much that children miss out on, even when they see the father in that time. And you can see it in the spillover effects in society. And then we act shocked why kids are criminals, drug addicts. And some of it has to do with some of the work that is not being done, that's meant to be done in the children's court. And I think one of the solutions we need to look into is taking the child away from both parents, which is not great, but it's from that, it's to take away the bias. Because if we can have build decent or have decent boarding schools where kids go, they are meant to be in a conducive environment where they are not being influenced in one way over another, and they're not missing out on one thing over another, and they have exposure, hopefully, to strong male role models in the schooling system. But that's not what I want to speak about. I just want to say the courts need to relook child laws, because the child laws that we have are actually not helping children. No one has shown any conclusive proof that in a situation where mom and dad are not living together with a child, which is number one ideal, the nuclear family, where the parents are divorced, split, not living together, no one has shown any proof that when the parents follow that plan, the child turns out great. It doesn't work. You can see it, where kids have to be shuttled. Dad's fetching me this week. No mom. Dad said co-parenting is a nightmare for most parents, and we need to relook how that works.
Yeah, I mean, just high level. If you only have the child every second weekend, you're not going to hold and challenge and push that child as you should.
You can't do much. They can't even see you in your natural state, because you're so focused on let's go play,
even if
let's
mom
go
says,
swim,
this boy was in 6 fights, talk to him. You won't, because you'll be afraid that you alienate him. Then he doesn't even want to spend the 2 weeks with you. I'm in agreement.
It's very tricky, but we need to change that. Number two, the number one way to reduce crime. The number one way to reduce crime is to replace criminal activity with something more constructive. I know this is not rocket science, but we're not having that conversation. We're having the conversation of, to reduce crime, we need more police. We need to make sure that the laws, and you're like, no, the crime is not going to stop, because the person committing the crime most chances is committing crime because they don't have a choice. And you haven't replaced them going to hijack, which I'd love to go hijack cars, but I need to submit this report. I'd love to go and mug someone, but yeah, I've got to.
I'd love to go hijack, but you know what? I need to submit this report. That's my favorite thing you've ever said to me. I love it. There needs to be.
The guys are going to mug someone. It's a Saturday. I'm like, hey, gents, fuck, it's buzzing in town, but we're playing a final soccer match. I'm the lead striker, so ish. Hey, my friends, maybe next week.
Maybe next week, yeah. Let's check my schedule.
The number one way to replace crime is to replace it with constructive things, of which jobs would obviously be ideal. Because now if you're committing crime, then you're there at political level. You're just being greedy. We're not speaking survival anymore. That now becomes something else. And also with healthy things like sports. It is a fact. It's been proven. There are case studies. You put children on the sports field. And it is not just about becoming Siya Kolisi or Dwayne Vermeulen or Peter Steph Tutoy. It's the discipline that you get taught. It's the teamwork. It's the traveling. It's the network.
It's being challenged.
It's being challenged. Many guys end up not being professional rugby players, of course. But
Most guys.
By far.
Yes.
But they end up becoming security guards. They end up working in private security. They end
Yes.
up working in mining companies. They end up being police officers. They end up getting a desk job because they were playing in sports where they met either the sponsors or some of the other guys. Hey, remember Yanni we used to play with? Yes. Oh, he's struggling. Like, no, tell him to come see me.
Done.
I know people because of that little rugby or football in your case network. So sports has got so many great ripple effects. Part of them being health. You're in good shape now, which can only be good for the future of the country. If you're physically well, we'd like to think you're mentally well, so you're not becoming suicidal or becoming a terrorist. So things like that. Things like that are very important. We need to, if we're serious about reducing crime, we need to say, what are criminals doing? They're planning hijackings, they're planning muggings. What can we replace that with? We see you guys always chill at the corner waiting to mug an old lady. Can we interest you in becoming a cadet and learning how to sell cars? And then the last one is
Leadership, man. Everything you've said comes from leadership.
So you call it leadership, I call it systems. And you'll say, yes, a good leader creates a good system.
Yes.
And I'll tell you that, sure, a good leader creates a good system. But once the systems are sound, I wanted to say this earlier, and I'm sorry to deviate. In South Africa, I'll speak of the South African case, we have got Judaism, we've got Islam, we've got Christianity. Arguably, yes, Judaism has got a small number of people. I think officially the number is 70,000. The Muslims arguably have 1 to 2% of the population, which is a much bigger number.
Yeah.
And then the Christians are arguably 80%. So
Yes.
already the data will be lopsided, and I apologize. But I wanted to emphasize this. Let me put Islam last first. Islam, the systems, whether your imam is good, bad, dodgy, whatever the case may be, yes, the leaders built them, the leaders of the Islamic nation globally. But the systems are so strong that even if your leader is weak, according to the Quran, when you go to mosque, we don't allow men to engage in women's sports. We don't care if the South African Constitution says it's fine, if the United Nations says it's fine, or America says this is cool now. The Quran and Islamic law says no. So we don't do it. This is what's important. If you do it, there are consequences. You get kicked out of the belief system. You get kicked out of the mosque. They turn their backs. It's not great, but they turn their backs on you in the community. Some of them abuse it for other things, but that's what happens. Judaism, I'd argue, similar. If things are not kosher, I mean, there's halal and haram here. If things are not kosher, if things are not according to this, if you're not doing this, there are consequences. Part of the problems we have with Christianity, or one of the biggest problems we have, this is now leaders versus systems. In Christianity, even with strong leaders, if the system doesn't have consequences, you still have people doing rubbish. And the leader's like, and you're like, look, a good leader will build strong systems. But if the Pope is saying things that are against the Bible, that are against Christian laws and the 10 Commandments, what now? Whereas here, whoever's leading the Islamic community, they're like, yeah, and they're like, as long as the Quran and Allah don't agree to this, we don't care if you're the greatest, whatever of all time. Oh, you're so cool and everyone loves you and you're traveling with. We follow the Quran, we follow Sharia law, and that's what it is. And if you don't, there are consequences. I'll tell you now, of these, I mentioned these three specifically because they are all Abrahamic. They all come from the same Bali, being Abraham. They just have different faces. Of course, there's Jesus Christ here. Here, the guy that they follow as a role model is Prophet Muhammad. And then arguably, you've got Moses, for the Jews. Others could argue otherwise.
Yes.
But it's the same Abraham that they speak to. Same leader. Different systems. Different. In South Africa, Aaron Struth, who I sat with on the Pioneer podcast, such a great clip. He speaks about the number of schools we have in South Africa. I forgot the number he gave. Let's say, for example, 13,000. He speaks about 12 million children that have to go to school. Let's say 15,000 schools. Of those, 1,200 are Afrikaans, which only cater for like 800,000 kids versus the 12 million. And it's like these schools that we have are functional. The kids come out, they in the economy, they not committing crimes, they all this. Yes, we can speak apartheid legacy and whatever. And he speaks about how the government is trying to push other kids now into these schools that cannot cater. The reason I'm raising that is same government, same president, same minister of education, same leaders. But I guess to your argument, in these schools here, your Hilton, Michael House, Bishop, St. John's, St. Stithians, bishops, I mentioned bishops, the leaders there and the systems there, that as a Hilton old boy, as a man van office, we've got a certain way. And if ever you do, Marcus, you still went to office. If ever you do something, we turn our backs on you and we say no. There are consequences
to
in that subculture of sorts.
I'm Christian.
Really?
Yes.
Aye. Oh, yes.
I'm Christian.
Sure.
So all a risk. And I'm going to, this is not my own words. I really, when Patrick Bet-David said it this way, then it made sense to me. But sure, you articulated it perfectly. All of those belief systems are a risk. Because can anyone, without a shadow of doubt, say that one is true? I can. And the reason why I can is one word. It's called faith. I have faith.
Yes.
Okay. Having faith that when I pass, I'll go to heaven, where I'll be reunited with people and loved ones that I've lost, and we'll hang out and it's going to be amazing. All right. It's all a risk. Believing in nothing is also a risk, because what if? And I didn't believe, I don't get to go and hang out with loved ones that have passed for an eternal life of beautiful. It smells nice. There's all these magical colors and all these magical flowers. So my faith, I'm putting all in risk that when I die, because I will, I'll go to heaven. Now, that's faith. That's internal. It's the way that you speak from a conscious point of mind up, reporting up to God. Okay. External, earthly things. Which belief system has recruited more people? Okay. Let's say South Africa, 80% plus. Okay. Why? Historically, looking at which belief system has a better
I hope you don't trigger me. I'm trying to bite my tongue.
No
I hope you're
problem.
not going to trigger me.
I'm gonna hopefully trigger you, because we
Also, you can switch it off. Aye.
okay. Which belief?
I'll allow you to say your thing. You were speaking so well.
So which
It sounds like you're about to say what I hope you're not going to say.
which belief system has created an environment for family to be raised? And all of them have flaws. Because there's nothing that's perfect. That's part of being human. Because if we were perfect, we can walk on water. And we don't. Because we're frail and we make mistakes. And that's why we ask and we repent and we ask forgiveness. But which system? And I don't want to trigger you in a negative way. I'm just sharing my opinion. which system has built an environment that allows for a large group of people over a long period of time to have a family and raise kids as peacefully as possible? I hope I didn't trigger you negatively.
No, you did, but I'm not going to counter.
Okay.
Yes, I'm not going to counter.
Okay.
Thank you.
Am I in danger?
Hopefully not. I think the watchers of this platform are mostly Christian people. So
the argument is anything guaranteed? For me, it's yes. How can you guarantee this? What if you close your eyes and you don't wake up in the morning? And Dana White said it. He said, well, then it's nothing. Nothing happens after that. And that's his belief system.
Sure.
For me, I love the guy. Like, the best promoter is like, everything he does is so cool. I disagree with him because he says, how can you guarantee it? And I can guarantee it through my faith.
Yeah.
Believing that.
I was happy with all of that until you tried to make it seem like Christianity is better. That's the only trigger.
I don't want to make it seem that it's better.
Sure.
I want to make it seem like the way I rationalized it. Throughout time, which belief system has created an opportunity to raise a family and kids over a long period of time with the least amount of conflict?
Least. You see, you're triggering me again now.
Don't
do that.
It's probably...
Christianity's got the least amount of conflict.
Let's move on.
Yeah, please.
Let's
I was
move
trying so hard. Father God, if you're out there.
Well, remember.
You said we're moving on.
Okay, let's move on.
But I'm putting a little pinned footnote there by least conflict. Jeez.
And the person that dropped me off to record this episode is a person that I call Obud. I speak to him 10 times a day. I spend at least 2 hours with him a day.
Yeah.
Muslim. Like 100%. Hey, Obud, I have to go pray. I'll check you now. I'm like, hey, what we chowing? He says, yeah, well, I'll get us, what is that new chicken place around the corner? It's very tasty. It's probably not healthy.
Don't give them a shout out unless they give us free chicken.
Yeah. But it's a
chicken place around the corner. You must give us free chicken.
It's a new place. So can we coexist? Absolutely. He's like my best friend. He is a dedicated Muslim. And on that Jew that turned back the mileage on the Porsche, I don't like him, but I've got like 3 Jewish people that I speak to daily. So can I coexist with the other 2 and have a deep bond where one of the Jewish guys that I speak to often called me last night and disclosed something so personal that he hasn't even told his dad about it. Jeez. He told me. And it's a life-making decision that he wanted to process with me that will influence him and his family's life for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
He found me first.
Yeah.
And he's a devoted Jew.
Sure.
So can we coexist? Yes.
Well, you guys have the same father. That's where I'm going to try and help you and protect you. You guys all come from Abraham, so we'll keep it there. I'm lucky because I don't believe in the Abrahamic faiths like you guys. I've got my own belief system. But I'm very happy to coexist with all good people.
With all good people.
All good people.
Awesome.
So,
and it's all a risk, right?
I'm not going to agree with you because this is how...
I almost got you.
Shame. This is how I got my brother... No, I didn't get him to, but he made his own decision. This is how he left Christianity. And it's I'm not going to explain it, but he also had the what if. And I told him that if that's the basis of your faith and your belief, I don't think the person that you believe in would be happy with that being the reason. Rather have another one. And he was like, I don't have another one. So, that's how he ended up leaving.
From American politics to faith.
My apologies. And faith is very sensitive.
Yeah.
My last closing, I sat with a gentleman, a great podcaster called Nkululeko Nkehu. He runs a great podcasting channel called Diski TV, where they speak about football. And he has his own podcast platform called Nkululeko on Culture. He spoke about the most infamous serial rapist and criminal we've had in South Africa called Moses Tole. About 38 people murdered, women, black women. And what he was emphasizing in that episode, and this is my parting shot.
Is he still alive?
I don't know if he's still alive, but he got 2,410 years in prison.
When was he imprisoned?
I can check.
Sorry.
You want to know?
Yeah, it will be interesting if
Do you
this
want to know for
person's
the
alive.
platform?
Because me and you need to go and interview him in jail.
But I don't need to interview him
No.
at all. Nah, I can even explain why.
Okay.
I've got my views around people like him.
Okay.
Let's see here. Born. He's got born. He should be 59 now. There's no dead, so he's
maybe,
probably still
maybe
alive.
still alive.
2,410 years in prison, known as the ABC killer, because he started off in Attridgeville, continued into Boxburg, and then Cleveland.
ABC.
ABC, the ABC killer, Moses Tole, the most infamous criminal, as it were, in this country. Why Nkulego raised him is because he comes from a township called Enyanga in Cape Town, which is arguably the most violent township in the country, arguably. And he spoke about the love he didn't receive from his parents. And he spoke about Moses Tole being interviewed, and the one thing he constantly raised was he never got love from his mother. And he specifically went out to rape and kill black women, almost as a defiant act to, my mom never loved me, my mom beat me, and. So I spoke about replacing criminal activity. I want to say that we need to love our children more. Not just biological, we need to love more children more. It's very difficult. And I'll tell you now, some criminals that I've met, that I know, that I've spoken to, they have boundaries. I know some people may find it hard to believe. They have boundaries. If you remind them of their grandmother, if you are of the same race or of the same ethnicity, whatever the case may be, sometimes it deters them from crime. If we can show love, especially to different people. I've been fascinated by young, very young white kids, especially girls, very young, 2, 3, coming up. Who are you? Why are you? And I'm like, she's so free.
Yeah.
And I have a responsibility. I have a responsibility to this girl to be so pleasant that she's like, okay, I've maybe met certain people, but I know not everyone is like that.
I understand.
So if we can love children better and be considerate and listen to them, we can ensure that in future we're not creating monsters, tyrants, etc. Because sometimes, I think this guy had a decent job, I think, normal guy. Yes, he's a psychosociopath. There may be deeper issues there. But you give a guy like this a soccer team to coach. You give a guy like this duties at church to read the book on Sunday. He might still be a monster, but you minimize, because it's like, I was about to go kill someone, but I have to go coach. But in that coaching, you now give a person a purpose. To be like, these boys rely on me. You now give someone a purpose. My dad hates me, my dad beats me, but the timer next door, so loving, so great. I don't want to let him down, because I know how disappointed he'll be if he ever hears this thing. So Moses might be the poster of this, but he's an extreme case. There are milder cases of people that before they do anything wrong, they're like, this guy just said something. I was about to do something wrong. Like, hey, a lot of our mothers actually become victims of this thing. Like, hey,
I don't want to do that.
I thought I was stealing money from like white rich people. You're like, no, I know, but the money that you're about to steal from, this bank, this white bank, a lot of that money is actually black Gogo's money.
Yeah.
The VBS story, when it gets told, a lot of it is like it was old women that were putting money, old black, poor women putting, if you were looting, you're not looting from white monopoly capital, you're looting from Gogo that now don't have money, bro. And if people were to know that and to be given that love and understanding, the hope is that they'll have a conscience and there'll be better people out there in society, especially racially. And it's one of the things that is we're still not getting right in this country, getting different races to come together and I hate you, let's talk. Why do you hate me? Because of, so it wasn't me, it was people that look like me. It was, what are you about? Oh, I love Jesus. Hey, I love Jesus. We love the same guy. No, I play rugby. There's so much more we have in common than we have apart. And how can we actually engage in proper nation building so that we stop harming each other?
About a year and a half ago, I interviewed a young man who murdered his brother, went into jail, and it's on the channel.
Ivan
Yeah, Ivor Swartz.
Okay.
So he killed his brother, went to jail, and became a prominent member of the 26 gang. Like really, 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 really high up ranking 26.
Ivor Swartz.
Yes,
I thought it was a white guy. It's a colored guy.
yes.
Okay.
And a thing that he said to me that I will forever and a day remember. Everyone in the room that day. Were you in the room that day? Everyone cried. I had my cousin from Bulgaria. He was sitting there. Ivor Swartz was sitting on the couch, and he also started crying. And he said, "Bobs, here's the reality. On your point." He said, when a young person doesn't receive warmth from the village, so his immediate environment, what that person then goes and does is, on your point, he sets that entire village on fire to feel the warmth. And that's what happened to him. He fell into this horrible trap where it wasn't a unintentional killing. He shot his brother. Because had he not, certain things would have happened. He shot him with a gun and he died. On that point, because the village, the environment that he grew up in, showed him no warmth, he set that entire place on fire. It's for not promoting, self-promoting the channel, but if you want to go and watch a real, no BS, from a prominent 26 gang member, from someone that killed his own brother, to a reformed, positive role model to society, and his journey, it's absolutely beautiful. I said to him, "Bro, I'm sorry," like tears are falling down my cheeks. And when I looked, because we normally shoot with a big light here on top of me, and I can normally not see anyone else. When I looked to the left, we had 3 or 4 people in the room. Everybody was crying as he was telling us that story. And
I see he's reformed. He's a pastor.
Yeah.
He's written a book as well.
Yeah. Absolutely fantastic guy. And it's a guy with he's a trifecta. He hasn't read books about prison.
Yeah.
He hasn't read books about what it's like to be in a gang. He says, I asked him, first night in jail, what happened? What is a 26? What's the mentality? What is a 27? Why? What's a 28? What is the function of a 26? How do I grow in the ranks of a 26? Afterwards, he says, no one has shown that much interest, and he really enjoyed the interview. But, yeah.
We don't have to go far. When a child doesn't receive warmth from their village, they set it on fire to get warmth. Again, we're speaking extreme examples, but just for it to hopefully hit home for parents. You've got 2 children. You've got a 2-year-old and you've got a newborn. You see what the 2-year-old does when you don't give them attention. That little bit of terrorism. It's cute. Like, they want attention and they start banging. Some of them scream and they want love. Now imagine that little 2-year-old, because you'll eventually hug them or you'll shout at them, whatever, but you'll give them their attention and they'll get it. Imagine situations where those little kids, every time there's a newborn, every time there's another child, every time they scream, every time they bang, no one listens to them. It gets louder.
Yeah.
It has no choice but to get louder. And the first time, and this was the story from the Joker, by the way, you don't see me, you don't notice me, give it time, you'll eventually see me.
Yeah.
And you'll eventually notice me.
Scary, yeah?
Because I tried. Sorry, sir, can I please get a job? Can I please, get away from me. Hey, I was wondering if I could please, hey, Fusak! Or you don't see me. I'm a nobody.
Let me show you.
Okay. When I come back later to hijack your car, trust, you're going to remember me. And I'm going to make sure that you remember me.
Yeah.
Because I was a nobody earlier. And a lot of this is just because
attention.
We're not giving people attention, love, and warmth. Look, we're speaking about children now, but this could actually apply to adults. Sometimes we actually just need to hug each other. Sometimes we just need to be nice to each other. And someone who was on their way to do something, we were like, hey, let's go around the corner there to that chicken place of Obut. Is it Obut?
Yeah, Obut, yeah.
The guy's like, was actually about to go and commit some crimes. This chicken is banging. So lekker.
Good.
My stomach's full. I'm sleepy.
Yeah.
I miss my
Ma-
girlfriend. Let me go home.
Maybe another day. Yeah.
Maybe another day.
Yeah, and that day never comes. Awesome.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you.